Okay, today we're going to talk about the Harvey table saw that we brought into the shop. You've seen several of the people working on the shop trying to get it ready to go. It's now in service. If you have questions about it, we would appreciate it if you come talk to us about it. We'll be glad to show you how the features work on this saw. A little bit different to Powermatic. Doesn't have quite as much power as the Powermatic, but it's a nice cutting saw. Remember, this saw was brought in to be a backup saw, overflow saw, but use it as much as you want. I've used it a few times. It cuts really nice. It's a nice piece of equipment. It's got some very nice features on it, and we might as well get right into it right away. So, as you can see on top, it looks a lot different than the other saws. It has a vacuum system that's on top. Now everybody comes over and tries to raise the guard. The guard on this one does not raise. Each side of the guard will raise. But again, we wouldn't want you putting your fingers in there and stuff if at all possible to stay out of there. To get this up and down, you just come in and get you raise and lower the blade. As you can see, it moves, the guard changes position, does everything it needs to do. And when you want to change the riving knife or you want to change the blade, we bring it to the high position. The high position, we bring it up most of the way when we're going to make the change. Now, if we want to cut something and the guard is going to be in the way, or it's just not feasible to use it for the project that we're working on at the time, we take this off. This is not hard to do. This is pretty simple. Pieces, the hose slides off, and if you come over here to the side, Bill, you'll see a little knurled button. This little knurled button, if I put my finger on it, pull it back, and I rotate it counterclockwise an eighth of a turn, that unlocks the riving knife. The riving knife is connected to this guard. So there's a place to put your fingers in the holes. You're here, you wiggle it, and it slides out. That's how easy it is to take this out. Now, if you want to continue to use a riving knife and not have the full guard on, we have the other knife over here. I'll just get it for you and bring it over so you can see it. So we can put this knife right back in, and now when I want to lock this in place, that little knurled screw that I flicked out with my finger, I just put my finger on it. You can see it right down in there, and I flick it, and there it's locked. And that's how simple it is. And now you still have a knife, and the knife also works as a kickback. So you can do it that way. We're going to get another setup for a thin kerf blade, but we haven't gotten that far yet. So we're just using a regular kerf, full kerf, and making things work that way. So unlock this. I'm taking this riving knife out. Over here, I'll show you how to change the blade. Also on this one, these are metal plates for setting in around the blade. They also have a bevel on the back side. So this plate doubles as a straight up and down 90-degree cutting. And it will also go over and you can use it at angles. Haven't done much angle cutting with it. I think the most we've been with it is 25 degrees, but it does seem to have plenty of room. Anyhow, you slide this out. If you want to change the blade, there's a red button right here. This red button, you push down on it. This button then slides right into the shaft that drives the blade, the arbor. But it goes in, we're rounding off the edges and not being able to stick anything in there. And then your blade's all locked in. So it has its own special wrench. Stay right there, Bill. So a little bit different wrench than what you normally use. But this is here, this fits in here. And then, of course, take the nut off, put the nut back on. It should work just fine. But we should eliminate a lot of problems with breaking off the end of the pin like we do on the Powermatics and rounding off the edges or the arbor. Now, so this is all set up, the blade's set up. You go to put it back together, pretty simple, screw goes down in the end. Remember what I told you about the riving knife sets down in here. There's a little slot. There's no more lever to turn. It just sets right in place. Then I take this and I slide it right down in there. Slide that over. It locks in. This is now locked in place. Take the vacuum line, hook it up, and we're in business to start cutting. Now this saw has a lot of nice features on it. It has a dual fence. So when we bring the fence over to put it into operation, there are two different windows for the tape. There's one that has an L on it and there's one for an H. L is for low fence and the H is for high fence. Right now it's in the high fence mode. So use that scale. I had some people the other day using the first scale and then trying to readjust it when it's not set up that way. We'd prefer if you didn't change all our settings, if at all possible. We check it on the maintenance Saturdays, which is coming up here in a couple of days. So this is the high fence position. When you slide this over and you want to set your fence up, when you drop this down, do not push this all the way down here. There it's locked, that's all you need. If you keep going down, it'll be like the Powermatic stuff over here. We keep breaking the handles on them and breaking the little tang off the back that has the angle that locks it in place. That's all you need. It doesn't take much, and it's all locked in. So don't try to push it all the way to the floor. Anyhow, so this is the high fence. High fence is this window, and then the low fence, this little piece, is that window. So I want to change this around, but so why do you want to have a low fence? Well, we have a low fence on the other Harvey too that a lot of folks use. But we take and we loosen these two caps, okay? Slide this forward, turn it over, slide it back in, tighten these up. Now we're in the low fence position. Now we're in the first window. But you can see that it is a very low fence. So if I wanted to cut something with that low fence, I could take a piece of wood and put in there. And if I still wanted room, say I was going to be really close to the garden, I needed to get things out of the way, I could do that, or I could leave the garden. So one side of the garden would be up on your material, and it'd just be cluttered up, jammed up, not a lot of room. Where now I can still have this locked in, run this through, and be using a tool to slide it through. Whatever I'd like to do is still go through and get it done and get it out of the way. So depending on what you're cutting, so you got some little stuff, small stuff, you would use that fence. And then again, you use the first window. To change it, it's not real hard. You loosen the two knobs, slide it forward, you see the metal come off, you turn it, slide it right back down the saw, bring it right back together. And you can kind of match these ends up right here, just kind of wherever you'd like to stop, that's all good. And you don't have to tighten these till all the color comes out of the metal and out of the decals. Just snug them down, don't break the caps off, okay? And then again, you see how easy it slides. So that makes it pretty easy. Low fence, high fence. Just remember that, don't mix them up. Don't start moving my magnifying glass gauges here. They can be adjusted here, there is adjustment. But we prefer it if you just leave it put, stay put. If it hasn't been already readjusted by the time you got there, then it could be a problem. Or let us know and we'll take care of it. Now we're working on putting the Dado setup on this saw. And on the fence, because it has this funny shaped lip for the small fence to the high fence, and it's got some angles in there. So when we put the Dado piece on, we need to be able to come across, but we got nothing to hook into. So we took this and we tapered it, cut it up, and it just comes in there and slides right in the end. This now will be your Dado. I got to drill the holes in it yet. Everything will hook into that. So when you're using the Dado on your fence, this will protect it. This will all hook together. It will hold it nice and tight, and you won't have any problems. this will be finished here in another day. We'll have this done for you. So anyhow, that's how this part works. So, but most of the time, this is the way you're gonna see the saw, which is not a problem. Make sure you clean it up. Make sure you keep the deck clean. Like any of our other equipment, we wanna make sure we're keeping things clean. They run better. The worm gears on this for raising and lowering and setting the angles, they're totally exposed in underneath. There's an opening here. There's an opening in the top that you can see back at the worm gears. So don't forget to blow those out once in a while with an air hose. They work really smooth. I think you'll be quite happy with those. And there's just not the problem like with the Powermatics, that worm gear goes through a tube and you can't get the tube cleaned out right. So we want to make sure that everything is working properly with this. The switch, a little bit different than the other switches. You can still use your knee or whatever you want if you want to hit this button. This has a secondary backup on it for making sure the saw is not in service, where it slides through the start pin. So if somebody happens to turn your power on, which they shouldn't, but if your red light's on, you shouldn't be doing anything anyhow. But it will not start, okay? And we test all this stuff to make sure the safety features are always working on the saw. To start the saw, it's just like the other ones. Ready to go, doesn't take much at all. So that's about all there is to this saw right now. So the Harvey is in service. It's ready to go. If you have questions, come see any of the board members or come see anybody on the maintenance crew, or there's a lot of people that have already used the saw. Just, if you're not sure of something, ask questions. That's the same for any piece of equipment though. If you're not sure, ask a question. I've had, I thought I knew a little bit, but I've even had people say to me, they ask me a question, and I'm like, I'm not sure. And I turn around and I ask somebody else too, so it happens. But anyhow, just ask questions, take your time, do not rush. That's one of the biggest things we see right now, and it leads to more maintenance, is people get in too big a hurry. They're trying to cut too fast, especially on the band saws. We're cutting too fast. We're pulling out instead of putting relief cuts in, and we're snapping the blades off. So we need to be a little more careful there if we could. But I hope you enjoy the saw. Please let me know what you think of it. If it's really bad, just don't tell me no. But I think you'll like the saw. It runs really nice. Should do a good job for us. Next month, I'll be talking to you about the lathe that we're setting up over there on the other side. That's also a Harvey. It's a little bit different. But so we'll have another video for that. Again, any questions, contact me, any of our maintenance people, any of our board members, anybody who you have confidence in. There's a lot of people using this saw already, so you know, it's not mysterious or anything like that. Like I said, we're setting up the board over here right now. Oh, one other thing I will talk about just real quickly. This has a really nice miter gauge that does a lot of different things. It's very detailed. It's got a detent on it where automatic lock-in every time you go on. You know, it moves right through and goes into its lock-in spots. If you want to put a long piece in and you want to be over here and you want to cut out, you can extend this and do whatever position you need it to be in. It's got fine tuning up top. It's got a cut stop on the back side. And if it's not working for you over there, you want to put this over here and you want to go that way, you just loosen this thumb screw. You take it out of here and it goes in here. This pulls out of the end, slides in the other end. So you can work from either side. Please don't leave it like this and cut it in half. That would be bad. Try not to chop it up. It's really nice. It's really detailed. Be careful with it. We're building a holder for it right now. It has fine tuning on it. It's amazing how close you can get it. So This will be up, hanging up here on the wall here very shortly. And I hope you enjoyed that one. That was involved. You got to think about that one a little bit. It does a lot. So anyhow, things are coming together. This will be finished for the Dados pretty soon. I'd say a few days I'll have this done, have it all drilled and matched up with the board. So it'll work on, the Dados already work on those saws, but we'll then have it working on this saw too. So you can use Dados if you want and then have protection for the fence. Again, questions, contact me. Anybody in here that you've seen working with it, don't hesitate. And be careful and be safe.